Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Safest Family on the Block, where knowledge is power. I'm your host, Jason, and joining me today is Nia Hartsfield. Hello, ma'am.
Peace, everyone. Hello. Thank you so much for having me, Jason. I'm excited about this.
I am really jazzed. Now, Nia and I have been flirting a little bit on Instagram for a few weeks. We finally got it together to do an interview. And Nia is a Navy veteran, a firearms instructor, martial arts expert, and the founder and CEO of Hard Candy Women's Self-Defense. And then it's just the facts, but I'd love to just start with, tell us the story a little bit, how a Navy veteran and mother of three ended up running this company.
Wow, interesting enough. Well, I started the company, Hard Candy Self-Defense, honestly, as a self-defense product company. I started off in retail. I noticed that there was a trend, unfortunate trend, of course, in the statistics, the rising statistics in violent crimes against women. And I said, you know what, I got to get out here, I got to do something. When I got out of the military, I thought I wanted to own a family entertainment center. Well, I ended up selling those plans and moving right into the self-defense industry. Hard Candy as a product company moved great. Honestly, I was selling self-defense tools, keychains, things like that out of my trunk. I had a Camaro at the time, so it was all jazzed up, rally stripes. It was pink and green rally stripes. It drew so much attention. I had my car decaled out, Hard Candy Self-Defense, and I'm just pulling over, selling all these Couboutons and tasers and knives and pepper sprays. It was cool. But where I wanted to meet the need was in training the women, the same women that would call me and they would say, well, hey, Nia, I purchased this self-defense keychain from you, but I don't know how to use it. Or they'll purchase in bulk for their granddaughters or their nieces and they don't know how to use them. So that's when I started to do the self-defense seminars. I got into incorporating a lot of what I had learned in the military, Krav Maga. I had taken some jujitsu, Russian sistema, and I incorporated a lot of that into how I was training these women. Then I moved into certifications. I'm a mom of three boys. A lot of wrestling goes on in this house. My husband, he's military as well. So a lot of what we've been doing pretty much my whole adult life in the military and in raising my sons and my personal experiences that I have had in my life from a young girl until the time in the military where I had experienced some sexual trauma. I wanted to take a more realistic approach to personal protection than what I had learned in a lot of the mixed martial arts classes that I had taken. So I just wanted to become the change that I wanted to see out here and do that more realistically.
That makes good sense. There's a lot of self-defense training in the military. I think maybe even especially, it's large athletic men developing a system for large athletic men to fight other large athletic men, which is just a different set of parameters than what even a woman with military experience usually faces.
I'm telling you, that's the absolute truth. And we learned a lot of hand-to-hand combat, a lot of tactical training in the military, but where all of that went out of the window for me was when I was actually faced with an attack and I couldn't remember anything. So fear took over my entire being, which of course we know is a mental block. And with those mental blocks being in place, can't do anything. We stop breathing, we can't focus. And a lot of times you'll hear people use the expression, I blacked out. And that's exactly what it feels like when you've been trained to do a thing and fear sets in so heavy that you can't do anything but freeze. That's when I knew that this stuff does not freaking work. And I'm not saying that it doesn't work 100%, but if you haven't trained in the areas of doing it scared, trained in the areas of, what it's going to feel like to have to do it right now, that adrenaline rush, when it's happening right now in this moment, you're not really training for anything. You're just out there having fun, rolling around on some mats and, you're leaving away with this false sense of protection And it really doesn't work. And a lot of these guys have admitted to me, they let the women feel like they've done something. A lot of times if these guys really put 100% of their effort into choke slamming us, we're not getting back up. So when I say realistic, I move right into first and foremost, at least preventative measures, proactive measures, awareness, what that looks like, threat assessment, what it's going to feel like when you actually have to draw your firearm or have to get out of a situation quickly with a plan of action. So we have a foundation that I begin with when I start training. And I have to say at least 100% of my clients will say or testify to this being the best training they've ever had in their life.
And it sounds like that foundation is very little of it's physical off the bat. It's
very little, 20% at most.
And I really appreciate that, as this is a show for parents looking at self-defense for parents. Even if you are that large athletic black belt, when you're carrying an infant or you have two toddlers following behind you, or you're with your parent who's now not able to run because they're older and they've had injuries or whatnot, most of those physical options start to disappear very rapidly.
Oh yeah.
And so your training addresses some of those what they're calling soft skills, which I think is a terrible name for it, but that's what folks are using now. Yeah. Those kinds of approaches. So what might you advise? You got a mom who's relatively fit, reasonably, maybe had some brothers she tussled with, what have you, a military veteran, whatnot, who's now faced with this second level of vulnerability and fear of having children. What would be some of the first things you talk to her about?
A mom, I've got 3 boys. I'm going to really put myself into the shoes of moms with multiple children. Like you said, even with you, just having one child. One thing for sure, we teach that situational awareness is the first line of defense, but your eyes can't be everywhere on everything all the time. Your focus primarily in the public is on your child. But a lot of the times, or what I would suggest for that mom is to have a plan of action. Okay. When you have a plan of action that includes or that consists of how I'm going to get from point A to point B in the safest way possible, not just me, but myself with a child in tow, my purse, how am I going to walk? How am I going to look? My body language. When we start to incorporate what it looks like to position yourself in the public as a hard target, it only takes about 7 seconds for a criminal to pick you off in the first place. And I'm telling you right now, it's 3 seconds for a mom with a child or women wearing high heels and all these other, shoes, purses, and bags. These are all clothing or attire that would essentially slow you down. So they're looking at you like the baby calf. Now, what I will say for women, that's a part of how we are made up. We're going to have children in tow. We want to wear high heels. We're going to take our purses out in the public. That's a part of being a woman. So when I started this business, when I got into the self-defense aspect, actually applying these measures, I never tell women, stop wearing your high heels. Don't have all those bags and those purses. Be a woman. What I love is that we can continue and we can still remain feminine in our essence without having to compromise our safety. So let that be the very thing that has a criminal to say, well, I've underestimated this woman. She was prepared for this. She's not a victim today. So it's mindset. It's having a plan of action. It's being fully engaged with your environment. Of course, keeping your eyes on your child, but how am I going to get here in the safest way possible? How am I going to park my car? Where am I going to park my car? Do I remember where I parked my car? Where's the entrance? So all of these measures, you don't have to walk around acting like you're Laura Croft or some kind of, superhero and all these women that they make up in these leather bodysuits in the movies. But where you have conditioned your mind to say, I'm determined, I value my life enough to be safe. My child's life is valuable enough for me to do whatever is necessary in the shortest path.
Now, in your bio, you mentioned that your a motto, it looks like, which is to train women to live bold and fearlessly. And one of the things about when you start putting on that security mindset, that looking around for trouble, planning your routes from A to B, sometimes I get some pushback sometimes from potential clients on my side that feels like a paranoid mindset. But in my experience, it's exactly the opposite. That if you take care of these little things a little bit and take control of those, then all of a sudden you don't feel nearly as afraid or as paranoid as you did before. You're able to live boldly and fearlessly because you have those things in places and the confidence that comes with that.
Mhm. There's a level, I mean, fear is a natural response. Okay. When when I say I encourage women to live bold, fearlessly, realistically, there will never be a complete removal of fear, because that's our body's first response. Okay, it's like, whoa, this is happening right now. But don't stay there. We can't stay in a place of fear or surprise where it disables our ability to move forward. What I see a lot of, and I don't want to say that I'm, dealing with a lot of women that are out here paranoid, but 90% of the women that come to train with me, they're paranoid, they're afraid something has happened to them, they've been traumatized, and this is what we're dealing with. Not a lot of the women out here in this industry look like me. They're not all wearing heels. They might be in the gym lifting weights. They look like you don't want to mess with them. But the women that I train, they don't look that way. And I always tell them, you don't have to. You don't have to, like I said, you do not have to compromise your femininity to be safe. Sometimes I show up to my training classes wearing high heels. Sometimes these women show up with their children, because that's our everyday living. That's what it's gonna be. And with that, we're naturally a woman. We're not created to take life. It's not natural for a woman to just walk up and say, yeah, big, bad, bold. We're life givers. We bring life into the world. So it's something that we have to get over a lot of these mental blocks and these fear factors when it comes to deadly force, when it comes to leaving these bad situations or relationships. It's not easy. It seems like the easiest thing to do is just pull the trigger. The easiest thing to do is just walk out the house and leave this person that's abusing you. But what we really need to be addressing is the mental block, the fear, the what ifs, the how can I do it? How do I do it? That's what we need to be focusing on, because that's the issue. And that's why women are leading the statistics in deaths, in assaults, because of the mental block.
And I think there's a lot of social conditioning that's gone on between the way the different genders are treated and do that. One of the things I really like about your approach is you're approaching women's self-defense from reality, where often you get this training that wants a woman to, be different than who she is when she walked in the door, whether that's the 6-foot Marine who's teaching self-defense at the local police station, who teaches techniques that work for a 6-foot Marine, or on the other side, somebody who says, like you mentioned, don't wear skirts, don't wear heels, don't carry that purse that you love. Transform yourself into something different than you are.
Yeah. I've had a lot of guys, women too. I mean, I'm certainly not going to attack the guys, but, I've had people say, Nia, you're a self-defense trainer with those long nails? I'm like, yes, I am. You'd be amazed at what I can do. Actually, these are defense mechanisms. Okay. What happens? I have had cops tell me, stop with it. Women don't need to wear short skirts. They can be inviting. Maybe sometimes the way you dress, we eventually started blaming the victim for how they're dressed, how they walk, how they talk, and all these crazy things. You made a good mention when you say social conditioning. When we really think back to since childhood, even the Disney movies have conditioned women to believe that they're victims, that someone's going to come in on some white horse in a chariot and come save us from whatever the situation is. So naturally, from a child, remember now, this is like 5 years old, all of the Disney princesses had to be saved. And we're waiting on this hero. And so as adults, we fall into these fairy tales of what we expect in life from our relationships, and it doesn't turn out that way. Teen dating violence, okay? We fall into these relationships and these marriages, or even situations in the workplace where the boss, matter of fact, my superior was the one who sexually assaulted me in the military. So you're talking about where Disney said one thing, these guys are supposed to be protecting us, and then reality says, wait a minute. And then Disney's saying, wait, you're supposed to wait because Prince Charming is going to show up at some point. Just sit there and just wait, he's coming. Well, I don't teach women that. If you don't take responsibility for your own safety, he's not coming. We just better hope that they're going to come, but hope is not a plan of action. That's not the action plan. That's just it's a miracle, maybe. Okay, perhaps they will. But when they don't, now you're left there waiting. When I ask women, what's your plan? Something happened to you. I'm just going to dial 911. Or I'm just going to call my husband. I'm just going to call my brothers. By that time, you're already a victim. It's too late. You've already become a statistic.
And what's that saying, when seconds count, help is minutes away?
You better look at how long it takes law enforcement to show up after 911 has been dialed. Literally, it takes time.
And in that time, those seconds, you mentioned something earlier on I'd like to circle back to about that mental block, that moment of panic, that fight, flight, where we freeze.
Yeah.
That moment, it sounds like in your training, you teach people some ways to get over that, to move through it.
Yes.
And what are some of the things you would recommend people to practice now and internalize?
All right. So when I'm using, a lot of people are really stoked off the fact that I'm a firearms instructor. Honestly, I don't care anything about you showing up to shoot any guns. That's just a tool that I use to help women overcome fear. Like this is really scary. I pull out plastic ones, right? And they're like, whoa, and it literally is just a tool to help you overcome fear. You take something really scary and you just do it. And what I incorporate, one of the arts that I practiced was Russian systema. And Russian systema incorporates breathing. Okay, lots of breath. I love that in comparison to any other art. You're using your body, you're using leverage, low center of gravity, breath. Nothing that I'm teaching the women requires strength. So breath is what we're incorporating in the removal of fear. So anytime I'm training, anytime any of the videos you'll come across, you'll hear me telling the women to breathe. Before they ever pull the trigger, it's a hold of the breath. They start to shake. They can't think about anything I've just taught them because their brain is saying, look, we're not going to do anything until we get some oxygen. So without oxygen, your brain shuts down because now it's trying to find oxygen. And if you just remember to breathe, that moment of remembering my training, remembering what my plan is. I had a plan before I left out of the car. I had a plan before I left out of the house. We pack our purses full of lipsticks and pepper sprays and all these little cute things, right? But there's never a plan. And then when it's time to use the pepper spray, or when it's time to use the firearm or your little knife or your little taser, you can't even remember how to use it. You don't even remember where the trigger is. Or it's the pepper spray canister is turned backwards and now you've been subdued to the effects of the pepper spray because you're not breathing. There's no plan. So breath, it's simple, but it's breath. That's how we incorporate the removal of fear, because now I can think.
And that's not just limited to fear, of course. I mean, taking a breath when you're angry with your kid, frustrated with them, embarrassed because they just threw a huge tantrum in front of your in-laws, all of those negative emotions, the same breath can help you control those. It's funny you mentioned Systema. I took a Systema workshop where we did some breathing work waist deep in a lake, where you get with your partner and you do a very simple arm bar to submerge them. And then you do that. And so we were practicing the breathing while your head was underwater and keeping it on this very specific pattern, even though you're starting to get out of breath and you're getting nervous because somebody's dunking you underwater.
That's powerful. Yeah.
Yeah.
Water is powerful. A lot of water is used in the training.
Mhm.
When I was going through a really difficult time in my life, I met one of the instructors, Systema instructor. He's shout out to Hatcher's House of Systema in Charlotte, North Carolina. But he encouraged me to be near water, began drinking more water, breathing. I believe he does like some kind of polar plunge of some sort, just training in like really, really, really cold water. It's so healing. Our bodies are what, 78% water. And think about even when we get dehydrated, there's nothing, your body stops functioning properly without water. So, and water is also comprised of what? Oxygen. You need breath. It's so amazing how it's all related, how self-defense is wellness, how it's total wellness. It's not just showing up for kicks and blocks and punches and all this other wild stuff. It really is about it's holistic.
Yeah.
It's your whole
If you want to,
self.
if you want to take that to the furthest extreme, I'm a middle-aged guy living in the suburbs.
Yeah.
Self-defense for me is jogging and eating right. Let's be honest. I'm not going to get mugged, but a heart attack's going to get me. All right.
Ooh, wow.
And that's as you say, this whole wellness, the holistic aspect of it.
Yeah.
And again, back to the breath, where you're talking about how if you're in that moment and the fear hits you, often the things I've read, and I haven't been in a situation like that, not a real life-threatening situation, a couple of tussles when I was 20, but those don't really count for the kind of thing you're talking about. But that idea that when you start to freeze, as soon as you can exert 1 degree of intentionality, intentional movement, intentional action, it starts to unlock the rest of the freeze. And the breath is the thing that we've done since the moment we were born.
Isn't that amazing? Isn't that so amazing how I love that you spoke about, even in our moments of rage and being upset with our spouses, our children, just taking that one, it allows your brain to just clear out all of everything else, focus, reset, reassess, and start again. It's so simple. When people ask me, how do you do that, Nia? And I say breath, they're trying to like, what? We don't even realize that we stop breathing. It's an involuntary action that when we're afraid, we stop doing it. You don't have to think about breathing, but when you're afraid, it's the first thing you stop doing. And it matters. When you ever stop breathing, you're sleeping, you just wake up, gasping for air, you don't know where you are, you're disoriented, you don't even know what home you're in, it's just dark. Then it takes you about 4 to 6 seconds to figure it all out. Okay, I'm safe, I'm in my home, and then you're back breathing. It's really about breath, even in a fight. You said you took some mixed martial arts, breathing with every punch, every strike, every kick. Breath is so important, or your attacker, you'll be subdued. You must breathe.
I think a lot of martial artists have that experience where they'll be sparring or rolling with somebody who's a little more advanced than them. And somewhere around there, because you're nervous, you forget to breathe. And then you are so gassed and out of breath, like 30 seconds in. And I think I'm sure you've had that experience. Most martial artists have done that once or twice.
I'm going to be honest with you. Well, I kickbox a lot for therapy. So all of the mixed martial arts that I've taken, it was really just for therapy. And when I wasn't breathing, I felt like I was doing something. The videos looked great, but I was feeling like crap. I wasn't breathing. So incorporate a lot more breath into your everyday life. I love that you said, your self-defense is making sure you're fit. You're physically fit. You're conditioning your heart. More times than not, that would be what happens to you, God forbid, but you've got to prepare for that. And just taking 5 deep breaths in a day is enough to say, okay, I wake up around about 1, 2 o'clock in the afternoon. We get really tired right after lunch. Yeah. They say that's the time where you want to start breathing techniques. About 5 deep breaths, 1 in, hold it for about 3 seconds, release about 5 of those. It's like you get a whole new bout of energy out of nowhere. This is how powerful breath is.
Yeah. And interestingly, the more that we do that intentionally breathe and thinking about our breath, the more likely it is that if we end up in a situation where we're having to push through fear, and whether that's the fear of an attacker or something like your youngest is 20 yards away running straight towards traffic, In both of those cases, overcoming that fear, the more we practice an intentional breath to reset ourselves, the more likely we'll be able to do it in that moment where it really matters.
Yes. Practicing that every day,
Right.
practicing that, preparing that moment when, okay, I have a really big fear of crowds. A lot of people do something to me. Could be just military related PTSD, I'm not sure, but taking a deep breath and then just going into the grocery store, all right, helps me to prepare. Okay, helps me to recall my training or recall my plan in the event something happens. All right, just breathing is so simple. It's the one thing that we're not even thinking about that's so important. Just breathe.
And to continue on that, this seems like a good anchor for building habits of awareness, where you get to the parking lot, take a quick breath, look around, get inside the store, do your thing, come out as you walk into the park, take a breath, look around. And just those little things so that if you see, the van parked next to your car with two, criminally aged youths smoking in the back, you can take another breath, go back inside, get the security guard to walk into your car.
Yeah.
But that awareness, that breathing can also help with the awareness bit that is, so important to keeping ourselves safe.
Yeah, you see how it's so simple, but so major. It just makes such a difference. When I got out of the military, for some weird reason, I started stuttering really bad. I don't know what that was about. I don't know what it was. I just couldn't stop stuttering. So I got a therapist. We did discover that it was trauma related. But one of the things she incorporated in my training with her, or my therapy with her, was breath. So it's literally when your brain's going so fast, or you're trying to get your thoughts out of your mouth, you just need to stop, take a deep breath, start over. And it worked. It's amazing how we can apply this to every aspect of life, including self-defense, personal protection, our relationships, our social lives, how we interact with other people in our areas, our communities. What it looks like when you think someone's stalking you. Am I going to freeze and stop breathing? My eyes are going to get big and I'm just going to stand there and hope that they're not looking at me? Or am I going to take a deep breath and look back and let this person know, hey, I see you, and it's that confidence, when you stop breathing, everything else locks up. Your neck locks up, your jawline gets tight and clenched. You look like you're afraid. So we talk about positioning yourself in the public, even as a hard target. Okay. And what does that look like? Confident. It looks like even if I'm scared to death on the outside, I'm looking, it needs to be something else because I'm breathing. Breath changes everything.
And sorry, I'm a little bit speechless because that's absolutely true. It's hard to render me speechless, but you did it. So kind of shifting gears a little bit, you mentioned earlier, that hope is not a plan of action. And then later on, you mentioned another thing that I think a lot of people believe are plans of action, which is to purchase a weapon and then forget about it and not get the proper training. I imagine you have a strong opinion about this.
Oh, of course I do. I don't get engaged in all the arguments. I mean, we see a whole lot of arguing going on right now in this arena. I stay out of that because for some people, they have to find themselves in the situation to realize that, oh, that doesn't work. Yeah. So we go out, we think that all we need to do is show up for a concealed carry class, get our license to carry, go get a firearm, and that's the end of that. Or we're just hoping because you got religious people who feel that, oh, I've got God, I don't need a firearm. Okay. These are all ways that increase your chances of victimization. Okay. One, because you have the wrong attitude. The first thing I mention in any of the classes that I teach is you have to have, well, honestly, it's a prerequisite for any of my courses. You have to have the right attitude when it comes to personal protection, saving your own life. And that begins with self-worth. Am I worthy enough? Do I love myself enough to take more classes on this? And am I worthy enough to, educate myself further on firearms, or further or beyond just the fact that I got into a couple of street fights when I was 12 years old and I think I'm invincible? It doesn't work that way. This firearm, a real firearm, will do you nothing more than what this little plastic one will do. If you have not received training and the conditioning that you need to use the firearm under stress, when it's really happening, not shooting a piece of paper that's just blown in the wind, not standing there and getting your sight alignment together and breathing, which is great, zeroing in on the target, pulling the trigger. It's much more than that when you're afraid for your life. The moment that I had to draw my gun on someone in the public, I was proud of myself because I didn't freeze. But in like a split second, I was about to make a decision that was going to not only change their life, but change my life as well. And had I not trained beyond just the military training, where it's just point and shoot, and actually went out here and got professional training, certifications, I don't think I would have been able to do that confidently. Now, luckily, I didn't have to take the person's life. That was a decision that I made. And the situation de-escalated and I was able to continue on. But in that moment, I was proud of myself because I was prepared for that. For people who just stop at, I'm just gonna go get a gun, or I'm just gonna go get some pepper spray. Well, what happens when, oh my God, when that pepper spray is outdated, it has expired, and it was just a can of pepper spray that someone bought you, your grandma bought you back 5 years ago, and it expired. And now you're going to use it and the nozzle is all crunchy and clogged up and it doesn't work. Now what? Or you haven't fired your gun since you bought it. You didn't even know that you were supposed to chamber around. Now you're just standing there pulling the trigger and nothing's happening because all you thought you needed to do was just go buy a gun. I've trained with women who've inherited tons of firearms. They've got all these guns, never shot them, too afraid to touch the gun. They've never cleaned the guns. They got pepper sprays. They don't really understand what that means. It's a false sense of protection. And that's all a firearm becomes when you are not confident and comfortable and courageous enough to do it. Continue the training and having proper mental attitude.
I like what you said about, do you care enough about yourself to invest that time in your safety?
Yeah, that's what it begins with. Self-defense begins with self-worth, self-love, self-care. That's what it's about. It's not about what you look like. Anybody can walk around with a gun on their hip and look the part, right? But then what about that person who doesn't believe you? Yeah, right. I don't believe you'll pull the trigger. And they test that. 7 out of 10 women are shot with their own firearm because they were too afraid to pull the trigger. So now you've got this gun, and now what? You have someone who doesn't believe this alter ego that you're walking around with, right? You got an alter ego. I got a gun and I'm bad. I got pepper spray. You hear that a lot in the movies. I got pepper spray. And it's like, okay. And then they continue going. Or depending on this person's level of determination to hurt you, one round, you pull the trigger once, that doesn't take them down. Now you're so scared after the first round, you drop the gun, or you discharge the pepper spray, but now you're subdued to the effects, or it was turned the wrong way, or it didn't work when you went to go push the nozzle. Now what? These things could happen, so this is what they're not thinking about. They're not thinking about what to think about or what to consider after they purchased a firearm or after they've gotten all these little tools that are useless if you don't know what to do with them.
And from a parent standpoint, not only are they useless, you've got a dangerous object in a whole bunch of kids running around.
Woo.
Right?
Let's talk about that.
Yeah,
God,
absolutely.
God, let's talk about that, please. Everyone listening to this podcast right now, I did a news interview. It's a local news station here. We did a news interview on this. if you are a firearms owner, you own a firearm, if you touch a firearm, it is now your responsibility. You've now assumed all responsibility. You need to know how the firearm functions, how to keep it safe from children, know the condition of the firearm. You have a lot of experts out here. Honestly, I'm gonna say this. When we opened up, you said martial arts expert. That's such a cringy word to me. But I'm honored, don't get me wrong. But when I hear people say that they're experts, in one sense, you've got all these experts, right? One hand. On the other hand, you've got these experts that are negligently taking life. And then they're saying, oh, I didn't know it was loaded. Oh, I thought it was a toy. I've heard experts in this industry, 20 years, cops looking down the barrel have lost their life in a gun range because when they pull the trigger, they've got a hang fire. And then they look down the barrel and it's over. And I'm talking 25, 30 years on the police force. I don't get it. I don't get this. You're telling people you're expert. Yeah. And then you're leaving firearms, for children to grab. And you're saying things. I thought it was unloaded. I thought. What do you know? We're humans. When I pull a real firearm out in my class in the trainings, I have 2 people check the gun. I check it, and I have new students check it. I teach them how to check a firearm, make sure that it's clear, and then they go behind me and they visually and physically inspect that. So I'm not an expert. I'm proficient at what I do. We're always learning.
It's a really good attitude to have. I've always thought that expert is a great thing for somebody else to put on you, but I'm honored. Anybody who advertises themselves as an expert, you give them a little bit of stink eye and you go check their references.
It makes me feel good, but and I put such emphasis on that because even I've been doing this for a long time, long enough. And I don't care if I've been doing it for 50 years, I will never lead with I'm an expert because I want you to understand the importance of the listeners to understand the importance of continuing your training. I am a forever student, forever. I'm always a student. I'm teaching what I know. As I learn, I teach. As I experience things in life, I teach it. And even the experts need to continue their training. And that's what I do all the time.
I think that tragic story you told about, a law enforcement officer, somebody taking the gun and looking down the barrel. Yeah. And what we're talking about there is complacency. That, this guy probably was a very qualified expert person, but got a little too confident in what they know, got a little too everyday about it, and made the one mistake the one time. And to being a lifelong student, I think there's a lot of people who go out there who they feel they know enough, that they got a lot of training, or you have a lot of training for a certain context, like you're training in the military. That was very good training for being a deployed soldier, a deployed seaman. But the second you get into civilian life, that's a different set of challenges. And that training, although I'm sure it formed a very good foundation, you needed to modify it substantially for the new context. And as parents, you have your instincts, you have your training, you have, whether you grew up in a tough neighborhood, you did martial arts, you have military experience, what have you. The second that your context changed and adds a child to that mix, or your parents move back into you in their older age, that context has changed. And now we no longer have the expertise that we used to because we're somewhere new.
That's true. Where the laws are in effect. Okay. When you're combat training, it's different, right? When you're a civilian, you have to know the law. So you hear all the time, shoot first, ask questions later. You will be in prison. So along with your right to defend yourself. I don't care if you're using a frying pan. You can be using your 80-year-old grandmother's cast iron skillet that's like 50 pounds. You better know the law. You better be justified in the use of force.
I got to say, I would rather be shot with a 22 than whacked by a Southern grandma's frying pan.
What are you telling, man? You ever drop one on your toe?
Oh,
Dude, man, I'm telling you, I mean, a part of that confidence, is knowing the law, knowing the law, what justifies a self-defense. It's not just go buy a gun. I love that you hit on that, because people just stop at going to buy some kind of self-defense tool and that's it. They don't even take the, take on the responsibility of learning the law. Like, come on, you have to love and be, like we said, self-worth. If I do have to use my firearm, am I going to be justified in doing so? What justifies as self-defense? What are my state laws?
And often the state laws around justification can help be a framework for your own thinking about, is this the time I'm going to make the shot? Because that's, it mirrors some of the decision making that you'll need to make in some states. Other states, they're not nearly as helpful.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, it increases your confidence. Okay, so you're walking around. All right, I am a law-abiding citizen. I am not out here provoking any, provoking threats, or in a situation where I'm, starting something and then now I want to holler self-defense. Have a clear understanding of the law. Taking these certifications actually work in your favor. It's a good look. Hey, you're in the court of law. You've now had to you've used deadly force, or you're in a situation where you've had to defend yourself, and hey, I've taken this certification, this course, this seminar, it helps you, it helps build your case, or it helps to say, well, this is a person who was well aware of their rights and knew what they were doing. They were comfortable in doing so. I'm just not some random maniac out here trigger happy and ready to go, shoot down someone's kid, but someone who was confident in doing that because they've invested in this.
And that word invest is so important, because I really feel like that investing that time and the money it takes to take those classes in yourself and your family. And I think the word invest is really important there. It's not money that you go spend.
No.
It's not time that you go waste. It's an investment in the most important things to you.
Highly encourage it. I mean, when you come across self-defense seminars, courses, classes, take advantage of those things. I mean, these are life skills. It's life skills. Once you learn it, no one can take it from you. You can pass them down to your children. It's exciting to have learned something new or a different perspective. Don't just say, hey, I took a karate class when I was in the 4th grade. I was a black belt in the 4th grade. That was the last self-defense class you ever took in your life. And you run around here bragging about it at 62, get out of here. Like, come on, let's be honest. Let's really be honest. The 4th grade black belt doesn't mean anything. I mean, this is real life now. No one's out here hitting plastic pieces of wood. They're going to run up on you with a gun. They're going to approach you at your blind spot, which is about 45 degrees. You won't see them coming if you're not paying attention. The reality is we need to be setting preventative measures in place. We have to be more proactive with our safety. We have to do the work. We have to invest the time. We have to trust the people in the field, in the industry, who are, the industry, we can say industry experts, I guess, or people who, like ourselves, have dedicated our lives to training and educating and bringing awareness.
And I think that one of the problems in this industry, there's a lot of charlatans. And not even, charlatan might be a strong word. I think there's a few people who are bad faith actors who are out there to bill people. But I think there's a lot of people who go in with a certain amount of experience, not realizing how limited that experience is, how narrow the scope of their experience is. You get the martial arts school on the corner where the owner of the school, the person in charge of there, has never, because this is a suburban school, the upper middle class neighborhood, they've never been in a tussle. and the person that they learned from had never been in a tussle.
Hmm.
And I think we see that in other places too. So some firearms instructors who have a naivety of what it really is like to have a firearm out and deploy it, and you see that in this industry. And
You are on
what,
point.
and what, unfortunately, and in my experience, one of the best ways to kind of weed them apart, tell the difference in a short interview is to just see, are they full of answers or are they full of questions?
Ooh.
I tend to trust the ones who are full of questions.
I love it. That's a topic that we need to really hit on more. How do I find a reputable self-defense instructor? I mean, reputation goes well beyond numbers, how many people they've trained. What are your real life experiences? So, outside of all these certifications that I hold, I tell people, and I'm the first to tell anyone, I don't care anything about those certifications. They look cute on my wall. They certify me to qualify you for certain training. Nice, kudos. But what really qualifies me in this life and for what I'm doing is what I have experienced firsthand, not just one time. People are coming for relatability. They trust me because I'm relatable. I look like them. I walk like them. I've experienced something that they've experienced. And they want to know, wow, okay, you're here, you're still standing, you're confident. Oh my God, she's all these things. How do you do that, Nia? How can you do that? So they're coming for a healing. They're showing up because their spirit is in such a low place that my self-worth is now hanging in the balances. Nia, how do I do this? I heard your story. That's what they're coming for. You think these people care about me being certified and all these ABCDs and all this? They don't care about all that stuff. They care. They care about how I relate to them. It's spirit work. It's heart work. It's hard work. Because I'm telling you, I don't know about you, dude, but I'm down for like 2 or 3 days when I'm after training. Like I gotta sleep for like 2 days because I'm putting my whole spirit into this. That's what people are coming for. They've lost someone, they've got family or friends who lost their lives to domestic violence or some sort of violent crime. They don't want to be next. Or women, we can feel the pain of a mother's cry on the news when she's lost her child. It's that emotional pull that you're feeling. And then it's like, okay, I need to go ahead and call. Think about what happened with COVID.
Yeah.
Everyone started buying guns. It's emotional. That's what it is. Everybody goes based on fear. So now they're ready.
And they run to you and then they start getting that advice about how to overcome that fear, with the breathing in the moment, with the planning before it happens, and putting it all together. Now, from a slightly different angle, we talked before the show about you've got 3 boys and I've got 2 boys. So we may not be the most qualified people in the room, but I know a lot of parents, when they talk to a women's self-defense instructor, they're going to be asking, okay, how about my teenage daughter? How can I, in the 6 years or so when she's becoming a woman before she goes out on her own, what are the things that we can do to send her out in the world with that confidence, with that breath, with that empowerment to take charge and responsibility for her own safety?
I'll say I'm qualified to speak on this because I was a 16-year-old girl once.
So one up on me.
Just saying, I was 16 once, girl, so yes.
Yeah.
And I'm going to be honest and transparent.
Yeah.
I was a teenage girl and I dated some bad boys. And, things got a little violent. Okay. I was raised in a home that was super toxic, verbally abusive, psychologically abusive, sexually abusive. And I want to encourage the moms, don't wait until your daughters are teens to start establishing a relationship. to start building trust with her, because now you're scared and you worried and, oh my God, am I doing it right? Am I good there? This needs to start from the womb, okay? From the time your child takes her first breath, your daughter, because we're talking about girls here, you need to be building that trust with her. You need to be teaching her self-worth, loving on her, pouring into her, being her mirror, being your daughter's mirror. Your daughter needs to see. A lot of moms don't realize this. Your daughters need to see you standing up for yourself. They need to see you being bold in the things that you know, and who you say you are. Okay. They need to see your confidence. They need to see your courage. You're their mirror. And as they move into life, they'll incorporate all the things you never had to sit them down and say because they've watched you. Okay. They're not going to put up with certain things. It's great to keep them in church. That's fun, around some positivity, you know, get them in some Girl Scouts and things like that. But that's not to say bad things don't happen in church. That's not to say bad things don't happen within these small circles and these organizations. What really matters is the relationship that you have with your daughter. You can send them off to all the boarding schools you want, all the group, all this stuff that they got, all these clubs and stuff and church, and you can do all that all you want to. It's most important for you to build a foundation with your child, with your daughter. That's what you need. There, it's what you're showing her. It's what she's seeing. It's how she receives you. It's how she perceives you. It's how you respond to the things that she comes to you. She needs to trust that, okay, if I tell you, Mom, you know, I've lost my virginity, or Mom, you know, I like this boy, and, you know, all the uncomfortable conversations that you don't want to have. She needs to be able to trust you there, because as a teenager, when you're dealing with teen dating violence, which is where I was once upon a time, now, statistically, you're more likely to fall into a relationship where it is violent, domestic violence, intimate partner related violence, because it's what you've seen. It's what has been perpetuated in the household. You didn't see Mom stand up for herself. You didn't see Mom leave. You saw Mom just take it, take it, take it. So that's where the foundation needs to be laid. It's in the relationship and the bond that you have with your daughter. Please, moms, if you hear my voice, please, it's not too late to start over, to start new.
Puts me in mind, I don't remember where I heard this first, but it just really struck a chord about children listen a little bit, but they watch a lot.
Tell the truth. This is true. This is true. They're watching you. You know, we can't just tell our sons, you know, treat your wife with love and respect, and Mom's disrespecting the crap out of dad and dad's disrespecting the crap out of mom. What do you think the child's going to grow up to do? You know, so that relationship with self, relationship with others, with our children, we help to kind of mold and shape that. Right? A lot of mirror work going on. How do you see yourself in the mirror? You know, what I do is I write little notes on my son's mirror in the bathroom, you know, a lot of I ams. And when they're looking in the mirror and they're reading it, they're reading, I am worthy, I am confident. So I write little notes on their mirror when they wake up in the morning, when they rise in the morning and they're looking at themselves in the mirror and they're reading all these positive affirmations. They're saying to themselves subconsciously, whether they're reading it out loud or not, that you are all of the things that you were created to be. And it just goes so much deeper. Like, as I say, self-defense, like I said, don't just show up for these classes or just putting on some kicks, some boxing gloves and having you hit a piece of plastic wood that's already got a crack down the middle and make you feel like you're somebody. You need to be really doing the inner work. It's inner work, it's value, it's being around people that have a light. You know, if you're not confident, you feel like your confidence sucks, go hang around people who are super confident without being intimidated by them. You know, you can gain from that, you know? Yeah. So you can feel more than, because you already are. You're already more than enough. As human beings, we take that, you know, our ability, our natural ability to protect ourselves and we just truncate it down, based on what society has told us to do, especially as women. That you're a victim already. Disney movies tell girls, you're already a victim. You need to wait. You need to lay out and fall out on this lawn and just wait on someone to come save you. And it doesn't happen, and then you're let down, right? So you have to reverse all that crap. People like me and Jason, we're here like this is over. Like it's time's up for, we have like over 7,000 mixed martial arts studios on every corner in America. So many of them, right? All these dojos. Why are the crime rates steadily increasing? Why in the world are the crime rates? But we've got all these institutions all over the place. Where's the correlation here? Is like really weird. So it's because the approach is they're not taking the right approach. Like you said, they're in the suburbs, people teaching them based off experiences that they never had. So find a realistic self-defense instructor. Start there.
And if your goals are different, that's one of the things. It hurts my heart a little because I've been an old school martial artist for a very long time. But there's a lot of Taekwondo schools, a lot of karate schools out there that what they really are, BJJ schools, what they really are is a really fun group fitness class. And if that's what you want, more power to you. It's going to protect you from the things that are most likely to harm you as an adult in North America. But don't mistake that for self-defense training.
No,
they're two very different things.
Yeah. Oh God, yeah. Mixed martial arts is not the same thing as self-defense training. It's an art. It's fun. Like I said, I use it for therapy. I literally use kickboxing to try to lose weight and feel good. I imagine that the people that hurt me the most are on that punching bag, and I tear that bag up. You hear me? And it feels so good. God, it feels so good. Then I leave out of there feeling 100 grand.
Yeah. Preaching to the choir. Absolutely. But again, we don't think that that's self-defense training. That's fitness and therapy. And those are two very different things. Although also, when we're talking about getting our kids ready to go out in the world, we need to take that time to give ourselves the fitness training and the therapy so that our head's on straight when we have that hard conversation. And so we're around for their kid's wedding.
I love this. You are so right. I'm telling you, we can't give what we don't have for ourselves, right? So if mom and dad lack all of this self-worth, they can't pass it or teach it to their kids. So self-defense training really doesn't begin with a lot of adults until something has already happened to their kid, right? Self-defense training for a child begins as early as they're able to speak. Literally, teaching your kid to say no. That's self-defense. That's one of the hardest things for parents to do or adults to do is just say no.
Yeah. And teaching your kids that it's okay to say no. Yeah. That's a whole other thing.
Yeah.
So I suspect we could nerd out about this forever.
Oh yeah, we could.
but Nia, before we wrap up, I'd like to ask you, is there a question that you wish people ask you more often? And if so, what is it and what's the answer?
That's a good one. What's something that people ask me a lot of? I don't like to wrap everything back around to firearms training, but it's popular in America. Let's see, something that people ask me a whole lot of. They don't ask me, I kind of just figured out that they're scared when they show up. They never ask me how to do it scared. I wished more people asked Nia how to do it scared. They show up and then they realize that they're scared, even though the training environment is completely safe. They're afraid. So ask me, Nia, how do I do it scared? That's probably the most powerful thing. They never ask me that, but I wish more people did.
How do I do it scared? That could be somebody could write that book. How do I do it scared? How do I do it?
Yeah,
how do I parent scared?
That's one of the things. That's probably the best advice I've ever received in my life. I didn't ask the question. I just kept telling one of my mentors, I'm scared. I'm scared. I'm just scared. And she told me, we'll do it scared. I was like, what? So now, now and that's what I specialize in now, is teaching women how to do it scared. And of course, well, Nia, how do I do it scared? How to do it scared? Oh God, I think I should write a book on that. I don't know, maybe a TED Talk. Who knows?
Yeah, you heard it here first, folks.
Hey, you heard
Keep
it
an
here
eye
first. First, I hope y'all are tuning in. You heard it here first.
All right. All right. So, Nia, where can folks find out more about you and your programs?
Oh wow, I'm all over. I'm on Google. You can Google Hard Candy Self-Defense. You can check me out on my website. We're at www.hardcandyselfdefense.com. I'm on social media at Hard Candy Self-Defense, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. I just got a TikTok. I'm so excited about that. I suck, but you know what? I'm going to learn to be a TikToker. TikTok, all that other stuff they're doing, you know, rocking and stopping, all that crap. So I'm going to learn how to do TikTok, but you find me on there. And just reach out to me. Like, I'm such a personable person. You're not, I hope that made sense. Personable person. I love people. So when you email me, you're not getting an automatic response. You're getting really Nia emailing you back. If you call the business phone, you're not getting a call center. You're getting Nia. I'm not at my desk. I'm literally away from my desk probably 80% of the day. So I forwarded all my office calls to my cell phone. So you can reach me at area code 843-823-4846. I don't care if you just have to scream in the phone and cry. Honey, I will cry with you, because we are getting past this fear. We're getting past this self-doubt, and we're going to rise, because that's what we were created to do. So yes, hit me up.
So, and she means that.
I really do. I really do. I'm so serious, you all. Please, we gotta, changing the statistics begins with you. Crime is always gonna be a thing. It's always gonna be somebody hurt. But in order to do your part, you have to know that you're worth that. And you gotta do whatever it takes. Believe in yourself. Connect with me. I'm Hard Candy Self-Defense. Nia Hartsfield.
Thank you so much for giving us your time today. And thank you, everybody, for watching. Stay safe, everybody. We'll see you next time.
All right. Peace.